Hello, I'm Haley Milliard, and this is Girl Testify, where we tell our story for His glory. Today, I want to talk to you about this thing, or person of joy, actually, and how it radically changed my life. How there's like a joy, and then there's a true joy, and what that means to me, and hopefully, it just speaks life into you. So, get right into it. I don't remember; it wasn't that long ago that I met Joy. Joy was a person that I met. But what I didn't know was God going to use her to bring me an everlasting joy, okay? And maybe there's somebody that's brought you everlasting joy. Maybe there's something that God has done through someone that has brought you an everlasting joy. But this was very true for me, so I'm going to get right into it and share this with you. I get joy just thinking about this moment. Our God is a big God, all right? I don't ever want to put him in a box or make it seem like he's little, because he's not. He's a big God. And when he does things, he can do them on a large scale, and that is fun. That was true in this moment in my life when he brought joy to me in the most unexpected of places. I was in Kodiak, Alaska at the time. It's been a few years back. For those of you who know me, I lived in Kodiak for 3 years on an island. That was fun, and I will be going back to Alaska, which is also fun. Luke and I are building a house there, so that's fun. I met this beautiful woman, Joy, at a women's retreat, and so it was such a sweet time. I lived there, like I said, on an island, and I got to go on a boat to another island for a women's retreat, which was really sweet. You know, to have a women's retreat is always refreshing. If you've never been to one of these gatherings, highly recommend it, like 10 out of 10. You will often leave refreshed, renewed, just ready for anything. I was full of joy when I left there. So all my sisters on that island that I met in the church, they were like, Haley, you got to go to this Woody Island, you got to go to Camp Woody, like this is where we all got baptized, this is where like we did this as kids, and like where we go now. Like for me as a person that was new coming in, they were inviting me to this wonderful retreat that they go to every summer. And the summers in Alaska are absolutely stunning, and so I got to go on this boat to this island, to this women's retreat, and the guest speaker's name was Joy, unbeknownst to me at the time. And so I'm looking so forward to this. I'm expectant. Right before I leave, I have to back it up a little bit. Right before I leave, my husband Luke had been on a work trip to Juneau, Alaska. So he had just flown back home, and he was picking me up, and he was taking me to this boat and, kissing me, seeing me off. We had like 15 minutes maybe. And in this moment, I'm catching up with him, small talk. We can't really get into much because we had about 15 minutes. And I was telling him about this dream. I don't know if you've ever done this, like you tell someone about this dream that you had. And so I'm telling him about this dream that I had that I didn't think it really meant anything, but there was more. And it was interesting because, we're making small talk. I had seen this pile of wood, that like a tree that had been cut down in perfect cylinders, if you will, like circles, laying on the side of the road. And it kind of sparked something in my memory when I saw them. And I was telling Luke about this dream. And I said, I had the weirdest dream last night. And I said, I had a dream that I was riding in a truck with a man, and he's kind of like, who's the man? And I'm like, I don't know, nothing weird, but, being a good husband. He's like, who's the man? But I said, no, in the dream, though, it was like a friend that I'd known my whole life. Like I was riding in the road with this guy, driving an old truck, like an old school cool truck. Like if you're into old trucks, it was pretty cool. And riding down an old dirt road and like catching up with an old friend. It just felt familiar. And I remember riding with him, and it was weird because on either side of this dirt road, there were trees being cut down, and the trees were falling towards the truck, which doesn't make sense, right? Like you would never drive into danger like that if there's trees falling down. When these trees were being cut down, they're being cut down in perfect cylinders, falling like almost like dominoes towards the truck, but they're landing perfectly on either side of the truck, and we're just trucking along. And I remember saying to this familiar friend, I don't think this is a good idea that we're going in this direction. Like, I think we need to be going the other way because one of these trees, could fall and hit us. And I remember the friend saying, do you trust me? He's just still driving over there. Do you trust me? And I feel calm, and I feel peace. I feel like I'm not afraid. It's kind of interesting. I feel a real peace in the truck. And I'm like, well, yeah, I do trust you. And he's like, okay. So we keep going. Eventually, wouldn't you know, one of the tree circles that's being cut down hits my side of the windshield and cracks it. Doesn't cause the truck to go off the road, anything like that. Still going steady, like it didn't even move the guy in the driving seat over here. My friend is completely calm, and I go, I told you that was going to happen. If we kept going in that direction, I told you that was going to happen. And he goes, do you trust me? And I said, yeah, I do. It was the most interesting thing, because if I'm driving on this earth with somebody and this were to really happen, I think my answer would have been a little bit different, okay? Like, I think if I'm riding with you and trees are being cut down, falling towards me, and you're not heeding to this advice I'm giving you, I'm going to say, pull over, let me out. But for whatever reason, I was completely content in the dream, peaceful. And I remember there being a peace in the truck. So I wake up from the dream, and that's it. My husband's like, for real? Like, that's the end of the dream? There's nothing more? And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing more. So we're moving along. He puts me on the boat, he kisses me on the cheek, and I get off on this great trip with my friends, and off we go to Woody Island. The first night we get there, we get settled in our little cabins. It's pretty cool. There's these steps that go straight up. There's this hillside. All the cabins are in a line. I can see them up here on the hill. Down the hill is where the sanctuary is, and then there's this hall where we have this huge kitchen, all these tables overlooking this mountains and this beautiful ocean and all this amazing scenery. This is just beautiful and captivating. And so we get there, we get all of our stuff off the boat, which was kind of fun. We come up on the island, we go find our cabin. We can choose whatever cabin and who we want to be with. It's a sleepover, I don't know, in our 30s or whatever, so that's fun. And I remember going up and finding our cabin, and we ended up, my group of girls ended up going to the furthest cabin all the way at the end. We put everything in our cabin. I remember thinking, this is just absolutely beautiful. How fun. So we go down, we eat some food together, we settle in for the night. We kind of get these programs to tell us what's going to happen over the next couple of days. It's a weekend trip. And on the first night, we sit down and the guest speaker introduces herself, and her name's Joy. Okay? Her name's Joy. And so Joy says, right off the bat, she says, you know, who she is, where she's from, and then she gets right into, I had a dream before I came here, she says. And she said, I know this dream is for somebody here. And you're going to know who you are. You're going to immediately be able to identify who you are. God is going to do something through this dream. I just know it. And he's going to do something big this weekend. So, of course, we're all like leaning in. We're all expectant, like, what is the dream? And she begins to tell the dream. And she says, I haven't even told my husband about this dream. I haven't told anybody about this dream. I'm very clear that this dream is for someone here. So we're just expectant, right? Every woman is just like on the edge of her seat, including me. And so all of a sudden she says, I had a dream that I was riding down the road. And I immediately recall my dream, and I'm like, no way. And she says, I was riding with a guy that seemed familiar, like I had known him my whole life, like an old friend was in the car with me, and I was just talking with him back and forth. I immediately began to realize we had the same dream. She said, we continued to talk the whole way, and it was just like an old friend, like I'd always known them, and we're going back and forth, and I'm asking him questions, and he's answering them. And she said, I couldn't tell you who the friend was at first, and I remember thinking, like, who is this? I feel like I've known you my whole life. So she said, you know, what's your name? What's your name again? And he said, who do you say that I am? And she immediately recognized it was Jesus in the back seat. And as soon as she said that, I was like, whoa, okay. She described this dream. And I just had this same dream where I felt like I was riding down the road with a familiar friend, except for I didn't identify who he was. But I will tell you, when she said that to me, I knew who it was, and I knew who I was in the room, because the dreams were too paralleled, and my mind was just like, what's God getting ready to do? She said, you know who you are. That dream is for you. God's getting ready to do something big. And I was like, whoa. I walked out from this sanctuary. We were all going to go back to our bunks after this big moment. I'm very expectant now because I know about the dream. The only person I had told about the dream was my husband. So I called Luke as soon as I got out of this hall. I ran out there and I was like, doo, 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 doo. You're not going to believe this. As I'm doing this dialing, I walk out the door. Luke goes, hello. The first thing I'm confronted with is my cabin up on the hill. I can see it right in front of me. I look at my cabin on the hill, and would you know that all around my cabin, and only my cabin, no other cabin looks like this. Mine's on the very end. I walk outside to tell Luke about this lady's dream and the dream that I had just told him about. I'm looking at the cabin in front of me, and all around my cabin in heaping piles are trees cut down in perfect circles, just like my dream. All around. Like, it was almost so obvious that it was another affirmation from God. Like, huh? I looked at every other cabin on that whole thing for even one piece of wood, There was nothing like this. My cabin was completely surrounded in heaping piles of trees cut down in those perfect circles, just like in my dream, like something had all fallen down. And I knew there was something to this, and I said, Luke, you're just not going to believe this. I just met this woman, Joy, and she told me about this dream. And he goes, whoa. And I said, yeah. Like, I didn't have to connect the dots for Luke. Luke understood. Something was at hand here. Like, God was getting ready to do something here. And I was really excited about what that was. But to then take it a step further and say, Luke, do you remember the pile of wood that I saw when we were driving that sparked my memory to tell you the dream? And he said, yeah. I said, Luke, let me show you what my cabin looks like, and let me show you what everything else looks like. And I showed it to him, and he was like, whoa. Oh my gosh. And I was like, yes, the evidence is all around me that God's getting ready to do something through this person of Joy. And so I am really excited for the weekend now. If you could crank up my joy-ometer, it is up, okay? When you don't think that you have peaked in your joy, God can level up, I'm telling you. So here I am. I'm just more expectant than I even was when I got there. I'm so glad these women invited me to this retreat. I had no idea what God was going to do, and something supernatural is happening. So I go to bed, just joyful. I go to sleep, I wake up, I go down the hill. All the ladies are getting the shower up on that hill. There's like showers up here, so that's nice. I remember I thought, I'm going to wait because there's so many women taking showers right now. I'm going to go down and have breakfast. Maybe if I stagger or offset the shower, it'll work better. So I'll just go down there and have breakfast. It was kind of cool because they let women have, if you had a baby with you that was under the age of 1, you could bring it on this trip. So that's what happened. There was all these little, if they're 1 year or older, or little babies crawling. Some of these moms were still nursing. They were able to bring them. So that was fun. I go sit down, and because babies bring me joy. So I'm having my breakfast. I'm sitting with all these new moms. They're talking about their babies and the milestones that they're hitting and the milestones that they're not hitting. And in this moment, I felt very prompted to share about my own story a little bit. And I shared a little bit about how my son didn't hit all of his milestones either, but how God was good and saw us through that. So for me, my son, he had gone through his own road. We had gone through this, and now we're down the road, and God turned it for good, all of it. So I'm hoping it just like breathes life into these young moms. And so I'm sharing with them, and for some reason, unbeknownst to me, something in my spirit bubbled up that I didn't even know was there, and I said something about my journey that was so painful. There was a time in my own journey where we had gone through something with my son where I felt that the world rejected him, okay? I felt that, even the church didn't know how to receive my son. There was a time in my life that was true, and I felt rejected, and it hurt. And I felt like, it was really hard for him to make friends. I felt like it was really hard for me to make friends. I felt like it was hard to even be in the presence of my own family at times, because I felt like we were so different. And I felt like we were going through some things that no one understood what we were going through. And so that was hard. And there was a season where we went through, people had a really hard time accepting that truth. He wrestled with some things of neurodivergence, and, being a nonverbal child was hard. And anyway, there was a lot of things there that had happened. And later in his life, there was a more difficult season where I really felt we went through something that isolated us even further. There was a lot of pain. It probably went on for like 2 years, and he endured a lot, and because he did, we hurt for him, and we hurt for our family, and we went through a lot, and we felt, I think in that time I ran from God. Like the very time I should have been running to God, I ran from God. I don't know if you've ever gone through that, but that was true for me. Even though I knew God, even though he was close to me, I was still trying to outrun God because I felt upset that this was happening. I was going through a difficult time. And at this point, when I'm back at this retreat in Alaska, I'm obviously back in line with God, and I'm walking with God. But here I am at this retreat. These women are sharing about their babies. I'm sharing about mine. And for whatever reason, I shared something about my son that hurt, some part of me that was very vulnerable of me to share. And when I did, these women turned their backs on me. And I don't know if they did it because they were distracted, like in hindsight, or if they really just didn't know what to say to me in this moment. And so they just kind of, maybe it just paralyzed them what I shared with them. But in this moment, my sisters turned their back on me. The whole table, like a domino situation, like one turned, they all turned, and I felt alone. I had shared like a very tough thing to share, and none of them could even face me. And I felt like I was on an island, on an island, on an island. It hurt so bad. It hurt so bad because what I shared was also a time in my life where I felt rejected by the world. I felt that my family was rejected. I felt that I was rejected. I felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt like a lot of my friends stepped out at the time. And I don't blame anybody. Like, if anybody's thinking about this, hearing this, I'm not trying to make anybody feel, but I'm just being really vulnerable and saying that I felt very alone. And I thought I had healed from all of this. By the time I got to Kodiak, Alaska, I thought my family was completely healed. I thought we'd moved a million miles down the road. We were already over it. There was nothing more to work out until this moment, guys. Until this moment. Because have you ever had it where pain, something triggers, something hurts so bad, and you're like, oh, I felt like a dart went inside of my heart, and it was just in there. And I realized that I still had a wound that needed to be healed inside of my own heart. So I retreated again, the very time that I needed to run to the Lord. I retreated. I didn't know how to deal with this moment. And maybe you've been in one of those moments. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've been through something where you have hit a place in life where you just don't know where to run, and you don't know what to say, and you don't know what to do. And that was me in this moment. It was me in this moment with this thing again. And so I ended up, the ladies turned their backs, and I said, I'm just going to go take a shower and get ready. I'll meet you all in the worship hall. I tried to kind of make it okay and escape, like in a gentle way. And I went up the hill. I took a shower up on that hill. And at this time, all the ladies were like, it was time for everybody to go hear from Joy. It was time for her to start leading this event, and music, worship, prayer, all that was kicking off. All the good stuff was kicking off. I retreated because I was in so much pain in here that I couldn't just go in there and start worshiping the Lord like it didn't hurt. It hurt really bad. So I went up on the hill, and I remember getting a shower. I remember just getting my stuff and trying to move forward. And it was in that place, being by myself with God, that I just started weeping. I started crying. The tears started coming down my cheeks in the shower. And I started talking to God in a really sincere way. And I said, Lord, why would you bring me here? Why would you let this happen again? Like, I feel like this has been my life story. I feel like I've been on an island with this as a mother. I feel like I've been on an island in my own family at times. I feel like I've been on an island, like nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody knows what to say to me. No one knows how to pray for me. Like, why? Why did you bring me to an island to be rejected by your people too? Like, that hurt worse. I think that actually kind of hurt worse, because I was expecting love. I was expecting them to embrace me. I was expecting so much out of these people. I thought Christians couldn't hurt me. I say to you, if that's true, if you've ever had that thought, don't do that. Don't put Christians on pedestals. These are just people. Christians are just people, okay? And so they can hurt you, and they don't mean to, because they're just people. Sometimes people don't know what to say to you. Sometimes we say things they're not equipped for. That's just true. And that was true in this moment, but boy, did it hurt. I felt like the enemy was like distorting this thing. He had me up there all by myself in that place of isolation. I was just crying out to the Lord. Why did you bring me here? I feel like I'm on an island, and now I'm on an island. You literally let me take a boat and put me further away from, all civilization with this. I feel so hurt. I feel so alone. I've never felt more alone in my life. I felt like your people rejected me like the church rejects my son. I remember saying those words. The church rejects my son. Why would you bring me here? And in a moment, I want you to get this. In a moment, God goes, they rejected my son too, Haley. They rejected my son too. And in a moment, those darts, that fiery dart from the enemy that went in, it came right out. It extinguished all the pain like that. When I heard God say that to me, because that was the truth. That was the truth. He had not taken me to an island so I could feel all alone. He had taken me to an island to work out a part of my heart that had a fracture. I still had a fracture inside of me. And I'll never forget being like, oh, you're right. You're right. We, me, you, all of us, nobody can say that they didn't stand there and reject the Son of God. The world still does in many ways. And even Christians wrestle with this. We have times where we go our own way. Me included. I'm telling my story for His glory. I'm not calling anyone out. I'm just telling you. We rejected His son. Rejected my son too. And as soon as He said that, He brought me back to that place where Jesus says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Those words were powerful for me. And I was getting out of the shower at this point. There was a window, you guys. A little window I could see down there where they were worshiping. And in this moment, I had been looking down that hill, And I had been looking down on my sisters thinking, like, why did you let them do this to me? And I remember him saying, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You see, to follow Jesus Christ is to love them no matter what, because he loved us no matter what. His grace is sufficient for these moments. When people fail us, only he can bring everlasting joy. Only he can bring true peace. Not as the world gives, but only as he can give. And in this moment, I'm looking out that window. Would you know that window had cracks in it that I was looking through? And he brought forward the meaning of the dream. You see, I was riding down the road with him in the dream, and I was shattered. There was a part of me that was still broken. And it was like the Holy Spirit revealed it to me, and he said, I brought you here for this because you have a shattered part that needs to be healed by me. You still had a wound from that event with your son. You still have a pain from that time, and I brought you here to wash that off, to reveal the truth, that your hope can only be found in me. You can't put that on Christians. You can't put that on people. You can only find this in me. And I was like, wow, okay. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I brought you here to heal that so that you could be free from it. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. You don't forgive people because it frees them. You forgive people because it frees you. It freed me. I didn't even know I was still carrying that around. I thought we had moved on. But that's the lengths God went to take care of it, because he wants it to the full. Jesus died on a cross to give it all to us, not some of it. He's not satisfied with half. He wants the full. Get that. And some of us are running around okay with half. Some of us are just like retreating and running and saying, like, I got this. I'm not going to give this to the Lord. But I'm just telling you, he knows what to do with it better than we know what to do with it. So I ended up going down that hill. And there's a verse that says in Psalm 43, he put a new song in my mouth. And I promise you, when I went down that hill and I got in that worship room, ladies, I was worshiping like I had never worshiped before, because he had washed over me and he washed that thing off. And he set me free in a moment with his word, with the truth that I needed to get a hold of. So I was down there singing my whole heart out. Came with so much joy, joy everlasting. My joyometer was like off the charts at this point. But do you know how good God is? God took it one step further. And this is the best part. When God does something really big in your life, and he does something radical like this, when he reveals that he does a bigger thing, the enemy will come right on in and he will try to pluck whatever God plants. A good friend told me that. It's true. So God did this really big thing in my life, but what the enemy wants to do is he always wants to come in behind that thing and say, that didn't really happen. That really wasn't God. And like, you're just making that up, or you just want to see what you want to see because it makes you feel good, or whatever he tries to say to try to pluck what God's trying to plant in the hearts of his people. God went a step further. This was awesome. So I had believed the lie that I was the only one. No one understood what I was going through, that I was the only mom out here struggling with this, that the whole world rejects my son, but only God can love him, and like all those things, right? I go down there and start worshiping with my sisters. I truly forgive. I truly surrender it to the Lord. I truly let it go. I'm walking in total freedom of this in this moment. The guest speaker's name is Joy, right? Joy gets up and she introduces herself and she starts to tell a little bit more about herself. Do you know the work that Joy does happens to be, she has made her whole life work, her and her husband, it turns out, taking care of people like my son. Do you know that she literally, that is her life work? I had never met a person in my entire life that was their life work. And this was a woman that was so compassionate that she made it her life work. My situation was her life work. So God just showed me one more time. He brought me joy, a person, and he also brought me everlasting joy. Let me know that he would send somebody across the globe to let me know that I'm not alone. He would send somebody to an island in Kodiak and onto another island off of Kodiak, an island on an island on an island. This woman had to fly from the East Coast. When you look at the map and you see how far that really is, when God goes to that kind of a length to let you know that he is El Roy, the God who sees you, he is the God who hears you. When he restores your joy like he did, but then he also did it with a woman named Joy. He gave me the oil of joy instead of mourning. This is a verse that you can find in Isaiah 61. I'm telling you, joy came for me. Like a joy that never I could find on this earth any other way. The joy of the Lord is my strength. That's another word for someone. Nehemiah 8:10. Get this. God brought me unspeakable joy. Unspeakable joy. In the most radical way. In the most unbelievable way. And there was no denying it was him. He did it in such a way that like there was no denying it was him. I couldn't make it up. I couldn't dream it up without him. Testified her dream to me. Her life work was everything that I thought didn't exist. You just can't make this up. You can't top God. You can't top him. This is my story for his glory. He did it for me. He can do it for you. He puts a new song on your lips. You got to know. I have been praising him different. There's a new song on my lips. And I'm here to just share with somebody out there, like, if you're going through it, if you're going through a valley, Matthew 17:20 says, faith can move mountains. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Believe in things that you can't see and watch your God move that mountain because he will. If you're going through the valley, I want you to know you're not alone. Do not believe that. You are never alone. Pray, cry out to God. Watch him move that mountain. There will be a time where you're in the valley. There will be a time where you're standing at the top of that mountain. And when you're standing at the top of that mountain, he deserves all the praise. Sing a new song. And if you come into contact with somebody that you know is going through something that you've already been through, like you've been in that valley, girl, testify. Girl, testify about all that he has done in your life as you stand at the top of that mountain. Okay? All right. This is my story for his glory. Until next time, I hope this encourages somebody. This is all about joy, true joy that can only be found in him.